Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Joyce versus Daniel Dubois, probably one of the most entertaining fights that could be on the horizon in the heavyweight division, at that level especially. I mean, this will be contested for the British and European titles, so this is a fight between two undefeated fighters who are willing to put it all on the line, considering their position they are in, where they could take a few fights and maybe build their way up the rankings and get a world title shot, but they're going to gamble, so that's great, but there has been some claims that maybe this fight won't go ahead, especially from Frank Warren, because they said that they needed a live audience in order to make this event happen. But Frank Warren has explained that they will make a decision very soon on this fight, and he is talking to Daniel Dubois and Joyce about this. Both fighters still want the fight, but ultimately, can they really do it without a live audience? That is the question that is being asked. Now, yes, I believe they can do it without a live audience, but I mean, there is going to have to be a hit on the money, on the purses. They're not going to be able to earn the same amount of money they would if there was a live audience there, obviously. But my argument is, how much could they really get from a live gate from this fight anyway? How many people would pay to go and see this fight at the O2? Now, it's a big fight, but it's not a high-profile fight. Not a lot of people know who Daniel Dubois and Joyce are. There are many fans who are fans of those two, but ultimately they don't have the same kind of following as Chisora, as say Dillian Whyte, definitely not Anthony Joshua. So could they sell out the O2? My guess is they would sell around 15,000 tickets, possibly, maybe a bit more, maybe a little bit less, but that is how much I believe they would get, and that would obviously make up some of the purse for both fighters, but most of the money probably would come from TV and pay-per-view anyway. So what it all comes down to, again, is money. Of course it does, but what it comes down to is, are the fighters willing to take less money and still gamble? Because, as I said, this is a big gamble for both fighters, and if it doesn't pay off, then they are going back to fighting lower level oppositions like they were early on in their career, and there is a process of rebuilding. Daniel Dubois, in my opinion, could take a loss a lot better than Joyce, because Joyce is in a position where he has been fast-tracked thus far in his career. Daniel Dubois can take it slow. I mean, Dubois is what, 16-0? I mean, what's wrong with taking 16 more? He's only 23, so Daniel Dubois has time. Joyce, he definitely cannot take more, like 16 fights. He cannot do that. He has to be fast-tracked. After this Daniel Dubois fight, provided he won this fight, he would need to go straight for a world title opportunity, provided he could get it. Go straight for eliminators, fight Andy Ruiz if he can, fight Dillian Whyte if he can, Alexander Povetkin. These fights, they're the ones he needs to propel him onto the world stage if he were to come off a brilliant win over Daniel Dubois. Whereas in Daniel Dubois' case, he's in a great position. I mean, if he wins the fight, excellent position. If he loses the fight, then he's 23 years old. He still has a lot of time to go back, rebuild, regroup, and to get better. So having said that, financially it is a big risk, bigger in my opinion for Joyce. Not so big for Daniel Dubois, but still a big risk considering they are putting their O on the line and their position, because Daniel Dubois is what, number 2 in the WBO. So he's close to a world title opportunity, whether he takes this fight or not. And realistically, who has Daniel Dubois faced that warrants him having that position in the WBO? But hey, he's got the position, so Daniel Dubois is on course for a world title opportunity, closer than Joyce, even though Joyce probably has the better resume to Daniel Dubois. I mean, Bryant Jennings, good victory, and I mean, Joyce has also fought Bermane Stiverne, who was a former world champion, not the best world champion, but still a former world champion. So having said that, does Daniel Dubois need to face Joyce? Not necessarily, I mean, not at all, given his station in the WBO, so he doesn't need this fight. Does Joyce? No, not really. I mean, they can both go their separate ways, but still, we want to see this fight. We want to see that two fighters who can go their separate ways still go towards one another, still stay on this collision course, because if they believe they are going to make it to the top of the heavyweight division, then they're going to have to fight one another then anyway. Why not make that a rematch? I mean, if they fight now at domestic level, then, or European level, but if they fight now, then go on to world level and maybe have a rematch then. I mean, this fight is probably one of the most anticipated fights of the coming schedule. I mean, we do have, hopefully, Derek Chisora and Alexander Usyk, Alexander Povetkin and Dillian White, and Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. But Joe Joyce Daniel Dubois is right up there as one of the highly anticipated heavyweight matchups of the current schedule that has been set out by Matchroom and Queensberry and Top Rank. So given that, how can they deliver us this fight? How can they do it without a live audience? Because Frank Warren explained that there realistically is no way they can without a live gate there, because that was heavily dependent on the purse for the fighters and the purse for the event. So they do need a live audience. But I think that there is a way they could test how many people would be interested in paying the pay-per-view for this fight. And maybe that's have a press conference, maybe that's have some other media event and see how many people are interested in it. Because I think that this would do well on the pay-per-view, because it's a fight where we cannot predict the outcome. We can say, yeah, Daniel Dubois is fast, powerful, but we don't know how durable he is at the moment. Joe Joyce, extremely durable, but he's a bit slow, and maybe we'll get caught by Daniel Dubois. Maybe Dubois is powerful enough to hurt Joe Joyce. We can go back and forth and say this is why Dubois would win, this is why Joe Joyce would win, but we don't know until the fight happens. That is what is so great about it. That is why also I believe it's a better fight than Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3, a fight we've seen twice before, where we already know that Tyson Fury is clearly the better fighter than Deontay Wilder. It is these 50-50 fights that us fight fans really want to see. And I do hope there is a way in which they can make this fight happen. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Frank Warren has explained a decision will soon be made about Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois, previously set for October 24th, then maybe pushed back to November, but that doesn't seem possible at the moment either, especially with fans. So will this fight go ahead or will it not? A decision will soon be made. Frank Warren is also talking to both fighters, which is encouraging, because if there is dialogue between the fighters and the promoter, then maybe there is a way in which they can work this out and find a way for this fight to still happen, given there will be no fans there. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.